And guess what? Because this is an instanced extrusion modifier, of course, as you can see, we can easily update the scene, as you can see for yourselves, of course, with whichever extrusion values that you might want at that time. Okay. So again, I'm just trying to bring you guys the idea of effective workflow, you know, to get your work going quicker with the least amount of work required. But at the top, to top it all, proper planning to get it going. Now, one more step is required, because if ever you move any of these blocks, you'll notice just a block, but in order for animation to sell itself, it needs to be, we need a text layer that actually breaks into it so that it looks like it has been engraved. And here's how we do it. We are going to select the text H, J, and T. In other words, these are, yeah, you can see, of course, which objects we have selected there. Okay, select them, and then we are going to go to Edit, Clone. We need to make copies of each of them, and then hit OK. Very important. Okay, now if we select, you can see now each of them has been called something like H01, J01, and T01. Now we need to, each of these, of course, as I was saying, to be broken, to be engraved with the text that's supposed to contain. So we are going to go to the Create panel, and then go to the standard primitives, not shapes but standard primitives, and then we're going to create compound objects. Okay, they need to be Boolean. Now for this object here, for the text block H, we are going to pick the object text H01 and then hit pick. By doing that, if ever we move the text block H, can you see now? Of course, it has been cut into, and what is left with it? It's of course an engraved H, as you can see. Let me just undo my move. We need to work on the next one. Again, we're going to make it a Boolean. We are going to pick an operand. Of course, since this is T, we're going to select T01 to break into it. Again, if I move this out of the way, can you see? We have now a nice T that has been cut into it. And then of course J, again, as you can see, we're working on standard primitives, compound object, Boolean, and then we pick the operand and we select, this is J01. And of course also if we move J, you can see of course for yourselves what it's going on. And then each of these needs to, we need to right click and make them editable polys, okay, so that they can be of course editable. And of course that one. And then after that, we need some styling to go on with it. So for instance, this block here, we're going to select these polygons here on the roof, and we are going to, let's see, those polygons selected, we're going to apply an insert modifier, as you can see. Maybe, that kind of inserting. No, it seems that won't work. Okay, we need a more clever approach to this. Instead, we're going to select the edge mode, pick up that edge and ring them along. That way, of course, it selects all the edges along. And we are going to connect them. Let's come to this viewport here. We need to move the slide upwards like that so that it's towards the edge. Okay. In fact, you know what, we don't actually need to do all this. I'm going to undo connect the edges. I think we're actually happy with the look of things at this point. Now remember what we've just done, we've turned them into editable polys by first cutting the respective letters into them so that now when they're moved, you can see of course what they contain. Okay, and then up next we need to select, let's see, the text parts for H, T, and J. Select them. They need to be now positioned above their respective blocks. So we need to come here to the front viewport, and of course move them like that nicely so that they sit just above the text blocks that they're supposed to be sitting on. When we play this back again, of course you can see, of course, what is going on. Okay. You know what, something still tells me we can still style up these structures of ours, the blocks. So select, let's start with this block here. We're going to select it, and we're going to go to the edge mode, and then when we come to the left viewport, we are going to pick up all those edges along those lines at the top. But as you can see, of course, it also decides to select the ones at the bottom, and you don't want that. So hold down Alt. As you can see now, the mouse becomes a negative number. Hold Alt and then select the ones at the bottom. You can see now it selects them, of course, and also we don't want any of these in here. So we're going to Alt and select those on the inside too. So that now, of course, the only ones you have left are the ones on the edges, as you can see. And to them, we're going to add a chamfer modifiers, a chamfer option. So click on the chamfer settings box, and of course, we're going to increase it to a nice number, just to give us some nice rounded blocks, you know, like that. We're going to copy this number here. Okay. And then if we turn off the edge faces, you can see, of course, it still displays the edges. So instead, we're going to fix this, we're going to add a smooth modifier. And of course, as you can see, smooth modifier simply does everything for us. If we were to preview this, can you see how nice the rounded edges look indeed? Okay. Let's just come back to it again. Edge mode. Let's select those edges at the bottom there. Loop. Let's see. Maybe you want to bring them a bit more down. It's fine. It's fine the way it is. Okay. Don't want to overcomplicate things. That we, of course, we need to go to do the same on that one. We're going to select. There it is. Okay. Select the edge mode. Select all the upper edges, and then hold down Alt and deselect the bottom ones. And of course, we're going to Alt select all those on the inside too. And of course, we go to the chamfer settings and paste the settings that we had from this previous one here. And then hit OK. Yeah, like that. That should work. And then of course, to that one. All the upper ones, and then I'll click to deselect the bottom ones, and again, of course, I'll click to select the inner ones. And of course, we're going to apply the chamfer settings, right click, and then paste the values that we had earlier, and then hit OK. Okay. And of course, we need a smoothing modifier from here. And of course, we need to paste the instance here. As you can see, it nicely rounds them off the way they're supposed to be. Okay. Now this is where things really get interesting. Now we need to build a little brick house out of these objects of ours that we have in the scene, and here's what we're going to do. We are going to start with this block here. So let's go to the top view and select everything there, including the laser gun, the laser beams, the text, and the blocks, and so forth. Okay. And then we're going to group them. Let's call it group, let's see, H, sorry, group H. Okay. Up next is the one with the T. Group T. And of course, finally, the ones with the J. Okay. Then up next is we need to play around with the pivot points so that we can be able to easily put things where they're supposed to be. So select all the groups. Let's go to the top viewport, and then we select affect pivot only. first things first, we're going to select the moving tool. We want to move the pivot points so that they sit on the floor of our objects, of the groups, and also the fact that the pivot points must also come towards the edge there of our objects. Yeah, okay. Let's turn off the pivot point for now. If you select the rotation tool, sorry, come on, okay, that's where our pivot points are. Let's see, I just want to confirm. Oh no, we need to select our groups again. Affect pivot only. Yeah, you can see the pivot point is sitting at the bottoms there. Let's see. When you try to rotate them, now you can see, of course, they're rotating from the lower edge there, like that, okay? Because, of course, the pivot points were moved to the bottom, okay? And now, up next, certain things, of course, must be moved in order for us to begin to create our house brick. First things first, this edge here must be moved. Sorry, first turn off the angle, to turn off the affect pivot only option. We're going to move the edge here out of the way, and then the T and the J, select them. We are going to turn on angle snap toggle and then select the rotation tool. We are going to rotate them 90 degrees like that, okay? And then this one here, the T, let it come, let's see, at 0 units on the Y, on the X axis. The J, on the other hand, also let's move it at 0 units on the X axis. Rotate it 90 degrees like that. So you can see, of course, things from this view here. I'm wondering why. Oh yeah, now I can see why our laser beams are having a problem. You can see how wrongly they are turned at these points in time. But anyways, we're still working on things. Okay, don't worry, we're going to fix the problems now. We're going to select the group H, and then this guy here needs to be bigger than the rest, so we are scaling it a bit up and also moving it a bit upwards also, okay? And then we need to fix, remember the problem that we're having now, the fact that you can see how they're turning there very incorrectly. So we need to go, for instance, here, group, open, select the laser beam, go to the motion panel, and then we're going to uncheck follow. As you can see, simply uncheck the follow option, so that of course now it simply goes as a straight line like that, okay? Group, close, this is the group to modify next, group open, and that one there, motion panel, uncheck follow, group, close, okay? And of course this one also, group. Maybe this one here can actually afford to follow because it's sitting on the top, so it doesn't actually need to, it's not going to cause as much hassle, okay? By the way, it's always good to check your progress. So how about this? How about to take a quick render preview? Isn't this nice and beautiful how things are looking? Beautiful indeed what we're working towards. And now we're going to be very smart because this is very important. We need to rotate all our structures here by grouping them under one roof. So here's what we do. We go to selection option and then select all the groups, and then we go to group again and then group. So this will form the main group, okay? Now we need to adjust the group a bit, so we go to the hierarchy panel, affect pivot only, select the moving tool, and then we're going to move the hierarchy to the bottom there. As you can see, I think we need to move them to 0 units on almost all axes, as you can see, until we get to this area here. Yeah, because the pivot point needs to come to the corner here, where the T and the J actually meet. Okay, and then just to confirm, select also the rotation tool. You can see, of course, where the rotation will now take place from, and then turn off affect pivot only. Now, of course, as you can imagine, we need to rotate the body so that the reactor simulation will go well. To do that, we need to tilt the position of the body. Okay. Now, before actually we move on further, we need to create the impact objects that are going to strike at each of our text so that they can actually come down. So we go to the create panel. I think we're going to create standard primitives. We're going to be using boxes. Let's come here to the front. We're going to create one here. Okay, you can see the size of my box there. Move it so that it fits the T, the upper part of the T. As you can see, we can use the scaling tool as well. Yeah, so this object here will come and hit on the T, and it must be moved inwards, as you can see, so that it can wait there. We're going to call it hit T, or hit object T, and then select the rotation tool. We're going to shift and rotate it 90 degrees like that. So we're going to rename it to hit object J. Sorry. Yeah, okay. So this one, of course, needs to come to strike at the J. See views back. Let's change it to views front. Yeah, this object here needs to come and strike at the J, but you can see the J runs like that. So we're going to need to rotate this object here like that. Okay, and scale it upwards like that. As you can see, that's where J is, so that's where we are positioning it. Of course, that's remember, we had to rotate the shape of this heat impact, this object, because the J's these dimensions are, as you can see for yourselves, of course. Okay. Select the group. Let's go to group, open. I'm going to pick this group here. No, let's select this object here, and then we'll go to group, attach, and then we need to attach it to this group here, the group J. Attach it to that. Okay, and then also that box, that object there, group attach, we're going to attach it to group T, and then of course group close, so that now of course the one object, again, if you delete, you can see everything disappearing. Okay. Now is the time to get things twisted. Now I need to warn you guys that the rotation, what you're about to do, is very important, because it will determine exactly how the 3D Max will be able to calculate for us how to use the power of 3D Max's reactor system to create keyframe for us that we can't really have the time to create ourselves. Here we go. We're going to select the rotation tool. Step 1, please make sure we are working on the local axis, so that of course we don't mess up anything. Step 1, we need to pick which objects are going to actually be the main component. And I can judge from here. We need to rotate things as follows. On this view here, we need to bring things a bit forward like that, at about 30 degrees. Please, of course, as you can see, I've made sure mine is rotated at, mine is using the angle snap toggle, because you need really to do that. And of course, you're working on the local axis. Okay, and then after you've done that, we're also going to rotate now this way here Aha. At about what? 50 degrees or so. Of course, now we get a kind of an idea, of course, of what our objects look like that. Okay. Remember, we tested it like this so that Reactor system will calculate our animation very well. You see that, of course. Let's enjoy the view. Yeah, so you can see, of course, what we've decided to do. I like this view here. We're going to select our object, select the moving tool. Let's move it to 0 units on the x-axis and on the y-axis also. Okay, so you can see, of course, how it has been tilted. Okay.